Hello guys and welcome. Today we are taking a look at the 2021 Subaru Crosstrek. This is the base model, and since we're focused on the manual transmission, you can get the base model and the premium, and that's where it stops. To get up to the sport trim with some of those cool off-road features, or the limited trim all the way at the top, you would have to get the CVT. So today we're going to look at the base model here. You'll notice there are no fog lights here. You can get those on the premium trim. We're on 17-inch alloys here. You can get the 18-inch wheels in the limited trim, but again, no manual in that one. The Crosstrek is essentially a lifted Impreza hatchback. Looking at 21 cubic feet of space back here. With the seats up, you get 55 cubic feet. With the seats down, there's a 60-40 split on those. We're looking at the standard 2-liter boxer engine here. That has not changed for the base or the premium trim levels. If you go up to the sport or the limited trim, you can actually get a 2.5 liter engine now, and that's the one out of the base Forester that bumps your horsepower up about 30 horsepower. This one is at 152 horsepower, 145 pound-feet of torque. It's unfortunate that you can't get the peppier motor with the manual, but that's just the way it is. Go over here and climb into the back seats. Front seat set for me, as always. I'm at 5'7". Plenty of space back here. Headroom is good. So let's go ahead and take a quick look around here. You notice a few minor updates here and there. On the front end, there's some design changes that are pretty subtle. You've got these black mirrors, you'll notice. On the premium trim, those end up being body colored. They're also heated because you get the all-weather package if you get the premium trim, but since we are not in the premium, we're in the base, this one does not have the heated mirrors. You also don't get the heated seats. But again, those are available on the premium trim with the 6-speed manual transmission. Let's go ahead and start this up. We have a standard key. To get the upper trims to get the push button start. And we've got the standard 6.5-inch multimedia system here with your regular stuff for the Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, of course. That is all wired. No matter what trim you get, there is no wireless option, but that's totally fine for me. If you get the premium trim, you do get the Multimedia Plus system, which is a slightly upgraded version. You also get 6 speakers instead of the 4 speakers here. You also get this standard. We also have this standard kind of tech and speedometer on either side with the little information screen in the middle. This guy up here, standard on all the Subaru models. Just a little bit of extra information. Got some blanks down here. Cloth seats, cloth seats are standard on the premium and the base. They have some cool new seats in the sport model, but again, not available with the manual. And they have the leather if you get the limited trim, but again, not with the manual. You do have the automatic temperature controls, which is nice. That's standard across the line. Headroom, pretty good here. Very nice layout, standard stuff on the steering wheel. This is pretty tight here. Reverse, of course, with the collar and the Subaru, and to the left. Standard manual, handbrake, which is always good to have. Alright, let's take this thing for a drive. Notice here we've got the fake carbon fiber, kind of a nice look to it. Soft touch plastics up above, hard down below. It's standard cloth seats, as I mentioned. One interesting thing is that even with the base engine, whether you get the base engine or the upgraded engine, your MPG is about the same. This one gets 25 miles per gallon combined, and the new one is about the same. So there's really no downside except it's a little frustrating that you have to get it with the CVT. Subaru also added a few other kind of standard things across the lineup. They added some safety features, some of the eyesight safety features, like the lane keep assist and blind spot monitoring, stuff like that. But only if you get the CVT again. So it's across the lineup, even in the base trim, but only if you get the CVT, which is a little bit frustrating. There's some off-road extras if you get the sport trim. The sport trim really seems like it would be kind of a cool enthusiast vehicle, with the new colors and the off-road capabilities and the manual transmission with the bigger engine. It just seems like that would be a fun car, but unfortunately, we're looking at the smaller engine and the lower trim levels in this one. The clutch is pretty light. Actually, the transmission and everything really feels a lot like my 2018 Forester that I had with the manual transmission. Since they pulled the 2.5 liter engine out of the Forester for the upper trims with this one, I don't know why they couldn't mate the transmission. But I know there are some other factors that go into that as well. And like I said, this one is essentially just when it debuted, it was a raised version of the Impreza hatchback. This one is at 8.1 inches, I believe, where the Impreza is 5.7. This is technically a subcompact SUV. It's interesting how Subaru has done that with the naming. They call this a subcompact crossover, and the Forester is a crossover of some size, of some sort, and the Outback they call an SUV of some sort, and they sell a ton of them, even in America, where people are all I don't want a hatchback, or I don't want a wagon. People are not into that. And I've heard that's a complaint with this one too, is that you sit kind of low, so it's not, you don't get the ride height you get with a normal crossover or a normal SUV. But I kind of like that. I kind of like sitting down lower. It does feel tall to me, but I'm used to driving a GTI, which it's much lower to the ground. But it is nice you get that a little bit extra ground clearance up here in New England if you get some rough roads. And you also have Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system, of course. That's on all of their models other than the BRZ, which is also good up here in New England. But don't think of that as a substitute for winter tires. Remember that you need winter tires in the winter if you're going to drive in inclement weather. It is just, all seasons are not a substitute. I mean, all-wheel drive is not a substitute. So when this one it debuted in 2013 as a lifted Impreza. And then the second generation was released in 2017, so now we're 4 years into this one. And it is one of the best-selling models for Subaru. They sold 130,000 last year. Only 6% were manuals, which is actually higher, I believe, than the national average for manual sales. The manual's not bad. It's not quite as vague as the like the WRX and the STI. You definitely get a nicer feel where you're slotted, really well slotted into gear. It's not quite as ambiguous. It is really light. It's not nearly as sloppy as the 5-speed in the Impreza. This one's a lot tighter. There's really no slop at all to it. There's a longer shifter, which is totally fine. It sits at a good level. You know, I can rest my elbow on the center console here. Nice and springy. The clutch is pretty light. It has this textured steering wheel, which is, actually, I kind of like this. I didn't realize this was going to be in here. But it feels nice. It has some grip to it. Visibility all around is good. General hatchbacks, I feel, have pretty good visibility. You know, this is not technically a hatchback, I know, but the visibility is good. Plenty of space. It would be nice to have those heated mirrors, and the heated windshield actually is also part of the all-weather package. Let's see how this thing goes in a UE. Not too bad. Seemed about on par with the WRX or STI. You know, people complain about these being underpowered, which is, I think, a lot of the reason that Subaru ended up putting that 2.5 liter in this one. It's really not too bad driving around town here, which is kind of how I felt with the Forester. The Forester was a lot heavier, though, obviously. This is a good kind of middle ground. But I imagine that on the highway, it probably could use a little bit more pep when you really just need to step on it for a second to get to merge or something, if you want to pass somebody. But around town it's totally fine. A little bit of rough road, no problems there. There's some potholes. We are in New England. Rough roads everywhere. Definitely feel the bumps. These seats do feel pretty similar to my Forester seats, which are fine for a little while, but then they start to get a little bit uncomfortable over time if you're on a long drive. not as bad as something like a Honda Fit, but if you're on a road trip or something, it's not going to be too comfortable of a ride. It'd be cool to have that X mode that you get with the sport trim. Help with some of the off-road stuff. But I'm not really going off-roading, and I'm sure that this is perfectly capable on some gravel roads or something, like if you're just going camping or something. Yeah, it's really not a bad ride. I'd be okay with living with one of these. 25 combined MPG on this one, 22 city, 29 highway. Not too bad, pretty standard. Pretty good in the, pretty much along the lines of the other compact and subcompact SUVs. Still think this is just a hatchback, but that's alright. The seats here are all manual. No power seats, no memory seats. In this one you do get the adjustable steering wheel up and down. You don't get the fog lights, as I mentioned. You can't get the LED lights with the manual because you cannot get the limited trim, and that's the only way to get the LED headlights, unfortunately. So you're stuck with the halogens, which is not great, but it is what it is. Rev hang a little bit, comes down a little slowly there. And we've got the standard backup camera. With the nice lines.